guys, I read my first 3-star read of the year this month, and I am so surprised by which book did not meet my expectations. I'm so surprised by which one it was, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and visiting my channel. I am Angela, and I find my paradise through reading. I'm gonna talk about the 10 books that I read during the month of April. Let me get this deck here. Okay, that's it. April was a fun reading month. I did not think I was gonna read this much. I actually read all of the books that were in my April TBR plus some, except one I am still reading. That was in my April TBR, but I got through all of them. So let's dive in. Oh, okay. What's interesting about this, and I'm just gonna say this, this month was such a variety. Let me grab my stuff again. Good Lord. Ugh, it's so heavy. So we have manga, we have a graphic novel, we have a classic, we have fantasy, we have nonfiction, we have fiction, nonfiction, we have a book of poetry. I mean, I threw it a little bit of everything, even like a children's book. I mean, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about keeping things interesting, kind of do what I do, read a little bit of everything. I think when you're just reading one genre all the time, back-to-back romance or back-to-back horror or back-to-back manga or just fantasy all the time, it can get stale, and then you can find yourself in a reading slump. And I do mix it up like this pretty frequently. I think just about every month I have all kinds of things going on, but not just that, but some big, heavy, thick reads, and then some quick, easy reads to balance it out. And so sometimes, yeah, I'll read a manga in between some of my books that are taking longer to read, and I alternate them. So that's just how I do things. Okay. Now that my wrist is hurting, oh my God. Let's get into this. Okay, so we're gonna start off with manga. That's on the top of the list. These are in no particular order. I can't even tell you what order I read these in. I forget. And as usual, I usually have a couple books going at the same time, so I don't think they're really in order. All right, so I read Hunter x Hunter volumes 6 and 7. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about this because this manga, because I mention it in every single video. I feel like it's usually in my currently reading videos because I'm usually currently reading one of these books, and it's in all of my month wrap-ups because every month I get one or two or more of these books. So all I'm gonna say about this, I mean, if you want to know about Hunter x Hunter, first of all, love this series. Action-packed, friendship, all kinds of cool things going on. And I am on book 7 now of the series, and I love it. I still love it. I'm definitely gonna get the next couple books and add them to my May TBR, which I'm working on. But so far I'm still enjoying this manga. I think I'm gonna commit and finish this series or this manga, which I think is 36 or 37 volumes long. So that's Hunter x Hunter or Hunter x Hunter. Highly recommend it. Quick, fun. That's that. And same with this fantastic manga, The Way of the House Husband. The series is on Netflix. Hilarious. I'm still loving I'm still loving it. I mean, every book is this. I wonder if this is the one, like, he ends up trying to, yeah, fill in at story time at this I think it's like a library or something. They had like a story time for little kids, and the person who was supposed to do it didn't show up. So he was like, yeah, I'll volunteer. And like the story that he tells is kind of horrifying. And he just like prepared like so ahead of time, and he took it so seriously. I mean, look at these kids' faces. And then like the librarian or the teacher, whoever, they kind of cut in and they're like, oh, okay. And they lived happily ever after or something like that. But oh my gosh. Way of the House Husband. If you want to laugh, you get this manga. And this is a short one and I'm so sad. But I think this is only like 10 or 11 volumes long. So I'm definitely, absolutely going to get all the rest of these. Okay, so this is a book of poetry. This is Homebody by Rupi Kaur. And this is a reread for me. I read this once last year and I wanted to read it again. This one is broken up into 4 sections. One is mind, the other is heart, rest, and awake. This is like on the back, it says, after feeling disconnected for so long, my mind and body are finally coming back to each other. Okay, I am certainly going to say this can be pretty intense. There are some poems in here that are very intense. So warning, this does have like trigger warning, I guess. It does have poetry about being a victim of sexual assault, child molestation, depression, just yeah. So those are the main ones that I can remember at this point. So it's just like poems of her struggles and like what she went through, what she's learned, what, you know, how she coped, how she's kind of back and forth in her process of healing and recovery. But then there's so much good in here. Some of these like really, yeah, they're disturbing to read, and I did tab quite a few of these, and some were just, and this was a quick read. I mean, you can see like how short some of these poems are. And she does have illustrations in here that she did herself. So all of these drawings are by Rupi. Let me share. Okay, here's one of my favorites. Says, being the loudest on Earth's playground doesn't make us any more important than the dirt we crush beneath our feet. We are nothing except air and fire and water and soil. We are a people who forget what we are made of. A people who talk about the weather as if it's mundane and not magic. As if the oceans are not holy water. As if the sky is not a vision. As if the animals are not our siblings. As if nature is not God. And rain is not God's tears, and we are not God's children, as if God is not the earth itself. Beautiful. Let's see another one. And a lot of it also is like about your body and self-image and things like that. So here's one. It says, I'm tired of being disappointed in the home that keeps me alive. I'm exhausted by the energy it takes to hate myself. I'm putting the hate down. And let's see. Give me laugh lines and wrinkles. I want proof of the jokes we shared. Engrave the lines into my face like the roots of a tree that grow deeper with each passing year. I want sunspots as souvenirs for the beaches we laid on. I want to look like I was never afraid to let the world take me by the hand and show me what it's made of. I want to leave this place knowing I did something with my body other than trying to make it look perfect. Okay? Okay. She has a couple other books of poetry, and I am interested in seeing what else she has written. Love it. Highly recommend. That's that one. Oh. All Things Bright and Beautiful by James Herriot. Oh, guys. Okay, this was made into a series, a TV series, but this follows James Herriot. This is like his memoirs. He is a vet. It's in the like 1930s, 40s in the Yorkshire Dales. And these are the stories that he's written down of just the beautiful scenery, the experiences, the visits that he's gone out. He does a lot of farm animal veterinary stuff. So, because there's a lot of farms out there. So it's like sheep, cows, horses, pigs, but he does some small animal stuff. And I'm telling you, okay, I've cried. This is the second book. The first book of his that I read was All Creatures Great and Small. And it was the coziest, I will never forget that book. I'm gonna cry, but I'll never forget that book. I will always associate it to my first winter in this house where I was sitting by the fire and every day after work just putting my feet up and reading that book, and it was the coziest experience in the world. And this book, same, like his writing is so fantastic and so endearing, and he's so sweet and so funny and he's so heartwarming. There's not, I can't say enough about the stories that he tells and the way he tells stories. He has my heart. He has my heart. I laughed so hard, like he has me laughing all the time. I cried multiple times. And I'm not even sure if I can like really share anything, because it would be like out of context, I think. But 10 stars, 10 out of 5 stars. Like if I don't know, how do I you gotta read it. I can't say enough about this book. I'm gonna get the next one, which who knows what it is. I think he has a list here. Oh yeah, so there's All Creatures Great and Small, All Things Wise and Wonderful, All Things Bright and Beautiful, The Lord God Made Them All, Every Living Thing, James Herriot's Treasury for Children, James Herriot's Cat Stories, and James Herriot's Dog Stories. And I'm gonna get them all. Like, I can't help myself. I can't help myself. I love these books. No, I'm just kidding. I love it. It says, from the Chicago Tribune, it says, whether sad or glad, each story shows his affection for animals and people. This man is a celebrant of life. Get this book. Get his books. Get them all. I don't know. Okay, guys. I was going to say this to the end, but I'm just going to get this done and over with because I'm just going through the pile, top to bottom. Bride of the Sea by Emma Hamm. This was my first 3-star read. of 2023. And I am so shocked because if you've been following me, you know how much I absolutely loved Heart of the Fae and the second book, Veins of Magic. And this is the third book in that Otherworld series. And this is a retelling of The Little Mermaid. Let me tell you how disappointed in this book I was. I don't know if what happened, Emma Ham? What happened? Because Heart of the Fae and Veins of Magic were so magical. The characters had such a connection. You were just in love with Ian, Eamon. I think his name was Eamon. See, I don't remember his name, but I don't care. I loved him. I had the biggest crush on him. He was my fantasy book crush. Oh, Eamon and Sorka. The best. Okay, the best. And then I get this, because I was like, I want to read all her books. Oh my gosh, she's fantastic. Ah. So. What I can't even say how disappointed I am in this book. First of all, and I don't know if Veins of Magic and Heart of the Fae had a lot of grammar and typos in the print, because I did listen to them on Audible, and I loved them so much. Like, I had to get the physical books to have on my shelves. But this book, where was the editor? Who's editing and reviewing your stuff? Because, oh my gosh, I only have like a couple tabs in here, but if I were tabbing the typos and the grammatical errors, I'd have a lot more. Like I actually read this one. I don't even think this was available on Audible. So I read this myself, and I was just like, what the heck am I was very pleasantly surprised to see this illustration. First of all, it is a beautiful book. It is beautiful. It matches, obviously, the other books in the collection. I hate it when there's books in the same collection, the same series, and they're different heights, or they're different, whatever. They just don't match. But this does. The same beautiful buttery cover, beautiful illustration in the front, beautiful illustration. Oh my gosh, look at how beautiful. So I was just so excited. Not only that, but I love that it would have like this design. In the beginning, every chapter had that nice. So I thought that was a very nice touch. But that's it. That is it. Looks aren't everything, people. Looks aren't everything. It hurts me to say this. It hurts me to say this. But okay, the male character, basically retelling of The Little Mermaid. Fish girl falls in love with a land guy, and so she leaves the ocean to marry this land dude. I'm gonna tell you right now, he's a douchebag. He's a douchebag. He says like he loves her or whatever, but let me tell you what, I did not like this guy. I didn't like it. I didn't care much for her either. I didn't like her. And their connection or their chemistry, I wasn't feeling it either. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. He was a douchebag. Like, how do you make like this romantic story and with this douchebag? Oh God, I don't know. I was cringing and just trying to get through it, and I got it done, and I was like, all right. And I don't know, like I was saying, I don't know if she got so much attention with the Veins of Magic and Heart of the Fae that she felt rushed to slap this thing together, but this story had so much potential and it just left you flat every time. So I cannot say I recommend this. I am, so that's what I'm thinking happened. She just rushed and slapped this thing together while she's still kind of like, I don't know. I'm going to give it one more chance. Hopefully she heard this feedback already and got a lot of disappointment and said to herself, I'm going to make sure that I take my time with the next book and make it better. So I am going to continue. I'm going to go on to the next book in the Otherworld series. If it disappoints me, I will stop reading this series, which I would be really disappointed because they have everything that I love. I love the fantasy, I love the magic and all of that stuff, but I'm not gonna, oh God, what a disappointment. I'm so sad. And 3 stars is pretty generous. I finished it. At least I didn't DNF it. I did finish it. Don't mind my dog. There's probably a bird flying around. That's where he, okay. This one, okay, this is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is a graphic novel. And this is one of the cutest. Oh, this is one of the most adorable. Now you're talking about chemistry and love or whatever. This had it. This follows this young woman who falls in love with a werewolf. And first of all, look at the book. It is cloth bound. The pages are black on the ends. Look at the back. On the back it says, I want your blood, and it's crossed off and says, well, it says I want your love and it's crossed off and then it says blood. And this book was so much cuter than I thought. I don't want to spoil. I can show something, I think. So it basically is their life together. This woman and this werewolf, and the little nuances that they kind of go through as being 2 very different creatures who are in love. And they just, wait, where's one? It's not, even though it is like graphic novel-y, it is not, I wouldn't recommend this for like young children. And oh, I want to share something because they're so freaking cute together. They are just absolutely adorable together. Okay, so here's one where she's like, oh, I hate this dress, and she's like taking off her dress, and he's in the background, and his little tail is like starts thumping. He's just watching her undress, and his little tail is going. Oh my gosh. And oh man, yeah, she'll tell him like how hot and how sexy and hot he is, and he'll tell her how ice cold she is, and like there they are, just kind of sleeping in her coffin together. Just so cute. And oh my gosh, I bought this book for someone who I was like, you're gonna love this, you're gonna love this. I think you're just gonna, and this has become her most favorite book ever. Like she loved it because it reminded me of her and her boyfriend. And so she read it, she shared it with her boyfriend, she reread it, and she just like, I love this book so much. Thank you so much for getting it for me. Like she wouldn't stop talking about it. So highly recommend. I wish this was a series. It's a standalone graphic novel. She has other graphic novels, and I'll look into them. But this is, I don't think she can top this. I'm sorry. This is just the most adorable thing I've ever. And it was so unexpected for me. It was so unexpected. I thought it was gonna be all right, but no, I was all smiles when I was reading that. So, okay, the next book that we have is Roald Dahl's Matilda. This I read with a 8-year-old over the last couple weeks, little by little. If you don't know Matilda, you're probably living under a rock, but let me tell you, it's about this young girl who grows up in this house with like horrible parents, a horrible brother, and she's just extremely intelligent and teaches herself to read. And she ends up going to like the library all the time, checking out books, and she's like not even in school yet. She's like 4 years old or whatever. By the time she gets to school, she's like a genius or whatever, but the headmistress, Miss Trunchbull, is horrifyingly awful. And so this is like her story of being at school, dealing with the Trunchbull and her home life and her relationship with her kindergarten teacher. So beautiful, beautiful book. Beautiful, beautiful story. They do have a movie about this. The movie is well done. And we really enjoyed this, so very cute. Okay. And Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Okay, this is on my 100 greatest books ever written list that I am going through, and look at all these tabs. I just realized that this book was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Like, I DNF'd this a couple years ago. I wasn't in a good headspace, and I guess I can mention and just recommend that if you're not in a good headspace for a certain book, feel free to put it down and, you know, come back to it later, because you may be missing out on something fantastic just because you're just maybe not in the mood for it at that time and you're forcing something that shouldn't be forced. So I am so glad that I picked this back up. I kind of dreaded picking it back up because I remember it being like so dark and dreary and gross and slimy, and I just felt like, I just didn't like the book. But this is one of my new this is one of my new favorites. Did they ever make a movie about this? I gotta look into it because holy crap, this would make a fantastic movie. So much has happened in this book. There's just, basically it's following a man who is like he was in school for law, left school, isn't really doing anything, isn't working, can't pay rent in this shabby, gross little room that he's renting. He's pretty far from his mom and his sister, and he commits a horrible crime. And this is about leading up to the crime, and then the things that happen afterwards. And I can't even say I expected how it ended. There were just so many twists and turns. Oh God. And there were like all these other stories intertwined and other characters introduced that just gave it like a whole different it was crazy. This book was absolutely crazy. It was so cool. The way you kind of thought you knew where things were headed, and no, you were wrong. And things just happened so unexpectedly, and it was just so, I felt like it was pretty realistic in that aspect. It really didn't make people, it made the people so realistic and so flawed, and it made the life very realistic in that things kind of just happened that you didn't expect and you just kind of had to go along with it or whatever. I don't know how to explain it. I am just not even qualified to talk about this book. It's just fantastic. It's fantastic. Crime and Punishment, new favorite. Absolutely 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Okay. They look like they're going to topple over. And the last book that I read is, it's funny because like I just finished it this morning. It is, not Emily Henry Book Lovers, because that's, I read that last year and it was so freaking good. I can't believe what the heck is that book called? Holy smokes. And it was good. Comedy. Romantic. Oh, God. I read romantic comedy. Okay. I got it on Audible. And so I listened to it and I kind of went through it in like 2 days. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I thought that it was going to be a lot funnier than it was. I felt it was a struggle at first to get into it. I felt like there was a lot of like descriptions that weren't necessary. So the writing was kind of annoying me. I was kind of annoyed. And I was like, man, and I thought it was going to be a funny movie and a funny book, but it wasn't that much. And basically it's about this woman who writes, she's a writer for a late night comedy skit show. So she writes skits. One of their special guests was like a famous singer, so she got to work with this famous singer who was like all awesome and perfect, and she didn't think that she always had this thing where like there's some kind of rule about people out of their league dating people like below their level or whatever. So she kind of held herself down here and would see someone like him who's like famous and gorgeous, like, you know, he's all the way up here, so he should be dating like 20-some-year-old models or whatever. So it's kind of about that and how they like their interactions and their friendship and how things turn out. I ended up getting really into it. As annoyed as I was by the writing, the story, I think, really began to develop, and I did start getting more into the characters and what was happening, and I just binged it like the last like 5-6 hours. I was just straight on through any second that I had to listen to more of it. Another thing I was kind of annoyed about was the chapter spacing, because sometimes you're like, okay, I'm gonna read or listen to a chapter. So in Audible, like chapter 1 was like 4 hours long. It was like half the book. And then one of the other chapters was like 3 hours long. So there were very few chapters, and so it was hard to find like a good stopping point with the book, which is probably another reason why I binge listened to it, because there really wasn't a break. So yeah, that was romantic comedy, and recommend it. I don't know, I'd say it was 4 stars. I did laugh a little bit. I did cry. I did get all like, ooh. And I kind of related to the characters a little bit, because the woman especially, she reminded me of someone that I had dated before, who was just always like, oh, you're way above my level. And it's like, oh, and just kind of self-sabotaging themselves or sabotaging the relationship because they didn't think they deserve to be happy, or why should they get everything they want or something. I don't know. So I kind of relate to like to how she was, and so I just know what it's like dating someone who sees things that way. Like there's certain levels, and then I related more to the musician who was kind of like, I'm not like some kind of like God. I'm a person with feelings, and you're cool to be around. You're funny. You're smart. Um, you're good looking. You know, you're not the most beautiful person in the whole world. Um, but there's a connection. You know, you're just someone who I like talking to and being with. And um, so, yeah, I think it was really real and relatable in that sense for me. So, anyways, that was a lot. Thank you so much for joining me. And let me know what you're reading, what you read during the month of April, what you're planning to read for the month of May. I'm putting together my May TBR, and it's looking good. It's looking light. I don't think I'll be reading as heavily during these next couple months because it is spring and summer, and so I will be spending some time out in the gardens and taking little trips and doing other things, but definitely still got a lot of reading planned ahead either way. I'm gonna still put in as much as I can. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. Happy reading.